All right. So let me see here. Let's see, is the volume working? Okay, good. It looks like it's working fine. Okay. So I will start off with saying I do apologize. I anticipated on going live at 3:30 this afternoon, but of course, the one day that I decided to come outside and do a live stream for an hour is of course the one day that the individual across the street is outside, mowing the lawn and playing loud ass music, right? It couldn't have been yesterday, it couldn't have been 3 days ago. It had to be exactly today at the exact time that I had something scheduled that I wanted to do. So I had to sit here, you know, for 45 minutes until this individual got done with what he's doing in order to do the live stream. So I do apologize. That's why it was pushed back about an hour. But anyway, you know, um, yeah, I mean, I don't have a specific subject or topic that I wanted to speak about here in particular. I just had an hour available to me, so I figured that I would go live for an hour. Typically when I do streams, or really any stream in general on YouTube, I think that it should be roughly 2 hours, sounds like a good amount of time for a live stream. And half an hour seems too short, an hour is a little short, but it's decent, right? 3 hours might be a little long, but 2 hours seems to be the sweet spot, for lack of better terms. Same thing, like, say, for instance, when you do videos, people might ask, well, what's the proper format to do it? Do you do videos that are like a half an hour long, 40 minutes, an hour, 5 minutes? Well, the true answer to that, and you don't have to just listen to me, there's a lot of these, popular YouTubers out there that got millions of subscribers that will tell you that, usually what you should do is keep your videos to like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, because that's the attention span of the average person. And even that could be a stretch, because everybody today has that, 10, 15-second attention span. You know what I'm saying? Due to that, TikTok, all this garbage out here that these people are into. Everybody's attention went down. And hell, I'm honestly surprised that these movie theaters out here are able to keep themselves in business out here, because first of all, who the hell has the money to go see these movies? Like, say for instance, I went recently to see a movie and the damn popcorn by itself is like $10, and if you want a drink on the side, you're paying damn near, $16. And then besides that, nobody out here really has the attention span to sit through a 2.5 hour movie at this point. You know what I'm saying? So really, I'm surprised that these theaters out here are able to keep themselves open at this point. And then a whole nother point that should be mentioned is, like, most of the movies coming out now, or over the past, say, 5, 6 years, say 5 years or so, since 2020, are mainly like just sequels or remakes of older movies. There is rarely anything new. And these movies, where they do attempt to bring out something new, like a new concept, it usually doesn't turn out very well for the studios, right? They usually don't make back the amount of money that they put into the project. And that's just what it seems like now. Like the movies they got out are typically just either remakes of older stuff that people like, or just like add-ons to already existing series, which isn't totally bad. If people like to watch that, give people what they want to watch. But considering all these things being taken into consideration, it's hard to believe that these feeders out here are able to keep themselves open, considering all these different, things to take into consideration. Okay, let me see here. If somebody can let me know in the live chat here if you can hear me smoothly. I appreciate that. Because it's actually raining here. Supposed to rain here yesterday, but of course, it had to skip yesterday and rain today, right? Like it's funny. Like I was sitting there waiting for like 3 hours for it to rain in the time that the app said that it would rain in the area, and of course it doesn't rain. But then today, at this time, it wasn't supposed to rain. It is raining, of course. Yeah, that's just ironic. Hey, Dave Freak said coming in clear. Okay, cool, cool. And how you doing, Dave Freak? Long time no see. But yeah, man, it's a lot of shit going on out here. Whether we're talking about, in everybody's daily life, we're talking about, the news, and all these situations going on around the world. It's a lot going on right now. But what never failed to amuse me to no end is here it is, the world's literally on the verge of, another world war, you know, it seems like, right? Like, everything's in a dangerous position and situation right now. No matter where you look, what countries you look at, what peoples you look at, whatever aspect you look at, everything is in a bad situation right now. In every aspect, where you're talking about people's financial situations, where you're talking about um, world hunger, whether you're talking about anything you can think of, for lack of better terms, right? But what never failed to amuse me is that, you got all these guys going around on the internet that will convince themselves, that we're living in the kingdom, that, really there's nothing to worry about, don't take anything very seriously, like, it's like, say, for instance, like, I even know pastors out there that I've known for years who, you might talk to, um, about some of these topics or some of these issues. And, they'll give a relaxed, chilled response and like, people been saying for hundreds of years that they were living in the end times, so today it's not much different. People been saying that for hundreds of years, so it's not really that we're in the end times today. It's just, people just say that, due to the stuff they see on the news and whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, this guy's over here, as a SDA pastor. If you don't know what SDA means, it stands for Seventh Day Adventist. And dudes out there like, people have been saying that for hundreds of years. Well, it is true. I will say that it is true that people have been saying that they were living in the end times for hundreds of years. I mean, hell, even Christ's apostles thought that they were living in the end times 2,000 years ago when Christ was walking the earth. That's true. But with that being taken into consideration, none of these time periods seeing the stuff that we're seeing happen right now. Like say for instance, today there's weapons that exist that can kill all life on Earth, right? That correlate with what the Bible talks about would happen at the end of days. Like say for instance, if you read what is that, Malachi chapter 4 verse 1, right? A day shall come that shall burn like an oven. Or was that Isaiah chapter 9 verse 5, for every battle of the warrior is fought with confused noise and garments that are rolled in blood, but this battle will be fought with flames and burning fire. If you read Jeremiah like say Jeremiah 50, Jeremiah 51, it talks about arrows being shot from one end of the earth to the other. And even in the military, if you're familiar with their slang, they even call some of these missiles, they can refer to them as arrows, right? Look that up. But when you read some of these prophetic scriptures, like Jeremiah, when he talks about arrows being shot from one end of the earth to the other, he's really talking about the weaponry they have available in our modern day time today. But when he saw those visions that God gave him, he had to describe what he saw with his very limited vocabulary they had 2,000 years ago. Or we're really like what, 3,000 years ago, because he wasn't around when Christ was walking the earth. He was, Jeremiah was like what, 1,000 years before Christ? So yeah, he lived 3,000 years ago as of now. The freak said, yeah, lots going on. Don't usually see you on this time of day. Yeah. Typically, I do my live streams at nighttime, like say, yeah, 11:30 to 12, maybe 1 a.m. But yeah, once in a while, if I get the opportunity, I'll try to go live earlier in the daytime, but it's not something I casually do. For multiple different reasons. It's more easier for me to do a live stream at nighttime, but in the rare chance, if I get an opportunity to go live earlier in the day, then I'll do that if I get the chance to do so. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so back to what I was saying, I just find it, bizarre and laughable to me, how they got all these knuckleheads on YouTube in the tens of thousands at this point. Like, they're not even in the 20s or in the hundreds. They're really in the tens of thousands at this point of these, full preterist guys that go around on YouTube. Oh, nothing to be taken seriously today, or, don't worry about nothing. Or even these other numbskulls on YouTube, some of these conspiracy dudes, like say for instance, like Russian Vids is a good example. Oh, everything in the world isn't real, but everything is all faked and staged. It's like, okay, I mean, hey, look, if you want to believe that some things in the world are staged and fake, you're welcome to believe that. And I can agree with you to an extent that there are certainly things in the world that are orchestrated and played out. And, maybe the mainstream story might not be totally true in many cases. I can agree with you on that. But to sit there and pretend that, like, every news article and, like, every story you see on the nightly news, to pretend that all of that is just, like, fake and made up to scare people. Like, say, for instance, I've seen some of these dummies, like, say, if they watch Channel 9 news at, like 11 o'clock at night or something, and they see a news reporter cover a local robbery that just took place, and say in the background they might see a sign that has the number 33 on it. They'll be like, oh, well, look, that's proof that this is all staged and faked. It's like, no, dummy, sometimes these numbers just show up. Doesn't mean there's a deeper meaning behind it in every circumstance. Now, say if you see it in the background of a movie, perhaps there could be a deeper meaning because all of the props have to be set up and deliberately set up that way so you can see it on the camera, right? So when you see some of these numbers in movies or TV shows, perhaps they could have a deeper meaning. But if you're just watching the news and happen to see, like, in the background, maybe there's a gas station that has a number 33 on it or something like that, it doesn't mean there's anything to that, but these guys will look too deep into it and pretend like they found something, so amazing. It's just really bizarre to me, like, shit, I mean, it's getting so bad out here that there's knuckleheads on YouTube that don't even believe nuclear weapons exist anymore. It's like, well, dummy, if these weapons didn't exist, it's like, well, what do you think that these armies around the world and nations around the world are spending their hundreds of billions to trillions of dollars on throughout the years. Like, say, for instance, I heard a video I was watching earlier, they were saying that, like, this year America's gonna spend, like 600 million to, I mean, excuse me, 600 billion to $1 trillion on its military. It's like, okay, well, for the naysayers out there, well, what do you think of that money's being used on exactly? Like think about how much money that is. Let's just say, even if it was, say, just 500 billion, just for hypothetical example, like, what do you think that could be used to develop? Like, don't you think that money could go into developing these weapons and super advanced weapons? Like, I mean, you really mean to tell me that they're not using that money to develop their weaponry? I mean, that just doesn't make any damn sense to say something like that. Like, seriously, what do you think of that's going into like a vault somewhere with some dudes just sitting on mountains of money or something like that? I mean, the people who already rule the world and the people that are, um, on top of these nations around the world, they already got all the money they want. So, I mean, like, what exactly do you think the money's being used on if you're going to claim that it's not being used to develop these type of weapons around the world? It just doesn't make sense. So the truth is, a lot of these dummies on YouTube, just make up a garbage that they like, that fits their opinions and their narratives and, whatever they like, whatever they feel, and that's truly sad. It is truly sad to me, how a lot of these individuals, operate themselves and come to their beliefs. It truly is just bizarre and just strange to me, right? I truly cannot understand it, right? For lack of better terms, I just can't understand the motivation behind some of these people out here. It's just bizarre and pathetic. A lot of these people out here are just pathetic. Okay, let me see real quick. I'm checking something in the back. Bear with me for a second. Oh, like, I'll give you another example. You know what I find funny? Like, a lot of these dudes would spend their day, on Discord. Like a whole thing that's going on over there. I've seen is this guy Jay keeps going after this woman named April on there, which I thought that was Jamie's wife or something. But Jamie's a fruitcake himself. But everybody's on there, talking a bunch of bullshit and nonsense. Hey, look, I don't care to get involved with the scandals and the nonsense that they got going on over on Discord. You know what I'm saying? While it might be on a server with like 80 of these people, it might chime in like twice a week to see what's going on. I don't got time to sit there for 5 hours a day to, text back and forth with, a lot of these different people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't got the time. Like, I'll give you another example. Like, I did a video, I believe maybe 4 days ago now or something like that, about this knucklehead named Jack Smack 77. I call him Jackass 77. And I did a video, calling this guy a pathetic child and, a pathetic um, knucklehead and doesn't know what the hell's going on, right? The dude sits there, talks shit about everybody, but then when you challenge him to debate, he'll tuck his tail between his legs and run like a little baby from a conversation. It's like, okay, it's pathetic for a dude in his 60s to have to sit there and act like a little 8-year-old girl. You know what I'm saying? It's just truly pathetic and sad if you think about it. But the reason I'm bringing it up is you had this other dude on there. Well, what's this guy? Charles Gibbons, right? Charles Biggins from the YouTube channel name. Oh shit, what's this guy's channel name? The Layman Seminary, right? The Layman Seminary. I call him the Layman's Cemetery, right? As Apostle Dahar would call him. Oh, they're a theological cemetery schools, right? They're not theological seminary schools. They are theological cemetery schools, right? So I call this guy Charles, right? Call his channel the Layman's Cemetery, right? I think it's well fitting, right? That dude's not running a theological seminary school. That boy's running, a theological cemetery school over there. But it's funny. This dude Charles was on the video that I was on there talking about this guy Jack Smack. And Charles is like, oh, well, Jack's not really free grace. He's more so hyper grace. It's like, hey, look, man, whatever type of word salad that y'all like to make up to call yourselves, I mean, if that's what you want to call it, you call it that. But the dude call himself representing free grace. Every video he has, he calls himself, oh, a free gracer. Free grace is the truth. Anybody anti free grace is guaranteed hell. So for all intents and purposes, this guy is free grace. And if you don't agree, well, you can argue with his, 800 uh, followers in the comment section under each video as to why he's not free grace. So for all intents and purposes, he is free grace. Now you might disagree with that, but that's your opinion. So I told this dude, hey, look, man. Oh, let me give you some context. So what he was saying it's like, oh well, he ain't, free grace CTT. He's hyper grace. I was like, okay, but the guy calls himself free grace and a teacher of free grace, and literally everybody around considers this guy to be like a top leader of free grace. So like, how the hell could he not be free grace? You know what I'm saying? And then he's like, oh, would you be willing to debate if he is of free grace or hyper grace? And I think to myself, it's like, hey, look, man, I don't got time to set up, a damn 2 or 3 hour debate with you as to if Jack Smack is really, a free grace or of hyper grace. It's like, I already laid out in the video all the reasons that I have to condemn this numbskull. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you like, you're welcome to call into a live stream and we can have a conversation for like, 20, 30 minutes as to why we both see differently. But, I don't have time to sit here and, set up the entire, 2 or 3 hour debate with you as to just the word salad that you guys like to call yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like sorry, man, but I don't have the time to do that. You know what I'm saying? But I offered a guy a choice. If you want to call into the live stream some night and talk about it, you're welcome to do that. But I don't have time to be, going back and forth with people about what pronunciations they like to use. You know what I'm saying? Like, sorry, I just don't have the time to do that. Okay, let me see. Diane said, LOL, about Discord, it can be a lot of drama at times. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Like, trust me, I've seen a lot of bullshit on Discord, right? Like Jay's always on there. Oh, well, what was that girl? What was her name? Alexa or Diane or something like that? I remember. Oh, April. That's what it was. It's like, hey, look, you know, I don't need a 3 hour sermon of why Jay doesn't like or why he's obsessed with April. You know what I'm saying? Somebody can give me a 2 minute rundown, and beyond that, I don't really care. You know what I'm saying? Hey, look, if they want to sit on there and go on a voice call for 5 hours and talk about it, and they can do that. But I don't have the time to do that. Like, say for instance, the other day I did a rare call in on Discord, right? I saw that Drew and Rudy, right, Ruby, they were doing a call together. So I was like, you know what, why not? I saw that Drew wanted to ask me something, so I figured I'd hop on for maybe 20 minutes with them and have a conversation in the chat. But beyond that, I don't really got time to really call on Discord. You know what I'm saying? Like, people ask me, well, why don't you call into calls on Discord? And I'm in like maybe 7 or 8 servers, right? And usually all around the time of the day, there's always chats going on a lot of these different servers, right? So people always ask me, bear with me a second. All right, my bad. I'm gonna have to wrap my stream up a little bit earlier than I anticipated here. Hey, instead I try to stay out of the drama and just post like news links on Discord. Yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying. But yeah, I don't really got time to join all these different chats and stuff. I tell people, hey, look, if you want to talk to me, you know where you can find me, live on YouTube at least once a week. Just call in there if you want to have a conversation with me. Of course everybody can feel free to send me a message, like say to my Gmail for an example, which you can contact me there anytime. But beyond that, if people want to have conversations, they're welcome to just call into the live stream. And a whole nother thing is I always see these dudes in the comment sections who like to, go back and forth for like, 50 damn comment threads back and forth. It's like, hey, look, I don't got time to type out, 50 messages with you in the comment section. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you want to talk about it, just call into a live stream and let's have a conversation about whatever the topic of, disagreement or whatever the conversation is that you have on your mind. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't get why a lot of people don't like to do that. A lot of people, it seems, just like to hide in the comment sections and put up comments, but not a lot of people like to actually, join and actually have a conversation for some odd reason. Okay, what I might do, which is subject to change, but what I might do is come at back later tonight and continue to live stream. Might go for another hour later on tonight. Um, because I'm gonna have to wrap this up here at 30 minutes now. I wanted to go for an hour, but something came up that now I'm not gonna be able to do that, of course. Um, but yeah, hopefully I'll continue this later. So just put that notification bell on. If I do decide to go live, it'll probably be around like 11:30 p.m. tonight. So do stay aware just in case I do decide to go live, which is a 50-50 right now. Might do it, might not do it, but it's a 50-50. Right? We're just gonna have to wait and see. But anyway, I'll wrap this stream up with it right there.